Is a foreign land just another location? Or does it offer something that one's home cannot? Some travellers seek to immerse themselves in foreign cultures. Others welcome the opportunity of getting lost. Whatever the motive or experience, they all return different.
Did you actually know it was possible?
Well, I knew it was possible to ride around the world because other people had done it. I just wasn't sure so much whether I could do it, especially making the money for it along the way. And I wouldn't have started it if I knew I eventually had to do it alone. I really wanted to do something completely different. I was stuck in front of the computer for too long, being in university, working on virtual projects all the time, nothing that you could touch, like nothing physical.
Well, you certainly had to get your hands dirty in Pakistan, didn't you?
Yeah, about 1 year into the journey, Marianne broke down. The first time in the 15 years that I owned it. I couldn't continue riding it. I was literally 50 kilometers from the Afghani border and a couple of miles from where the French guy got kidnapped. My brain switched into survival mode. So I thought, what can I do to get out of here?
Okay, I read your travel blog and I had no idea it was that serious at times.
Yeah, there were a few dicey situations, but I left out a lot. My mom was reading a travel blog too,
Can you tell me about some of that stuff, since, I'm your old buddy and not your mom?
Sure, I guess it's fine to talk about it now.
Yeah, why do you like traveling so much?
I don't know, I think it brings out the best in people.
When you were raised in East Germany, so what was travel like back then?
We traveled to some neighboring communist countries like Czech or Poland. The number of countries that we could go to were pretty limited.
The East German dictionary did not contain the words world tour or voyage. Sounds ludicrous, but it's true. Luckily, the reunification of East and West Germany opened up a whole new world for Daniel.
You've gone out quite a bit. You went to Ireland, you went to England. Where else have you gone?
I got really lucky. I traveled lots of Europe. I got to explore Australia. I went to South America and North America. So I tried all the different possible modes of transport, starting from the bicycle going up to the motorbike, car, camper van, train, even backpacking, everything. But a motorbike is really what is the best mode of transport for me.
Really? What's that?
It combines everything I really like. I want to be outside. I want to be connected to the elements, not like in a car where you have a comfort zone to hide in. And it's just fun to ride.
Right. Didn't you live in a park in London or something?
Yeah, at one stage, I ran out of money and I went to London in order to find a job, but I wouldn't get a job because I didn't have an address. And I couldn't pay for an apartment to have an address without a job. So for a few days, I lived in Wimbledon Park in the thickest of bushes with my tent, and yeah, that was horrible.
You camped out in Wimbledon Park. So you've been riding motorcycles for a while, right?
The first time I was on a bike was when I was 7 years old. I think at one point my grandfather said, now it's time for you to get a taste of this. So he basically lifted me off the push bike, put me onto the moped. I went down the hill and I liked it for the first 10 meters, and then I wanted to stop because at the end of the road there was a fence. And in my naive, childish mind, I thought turning the throttle forward would make the bike accelerate to go forward, and to pull it backwards would just make it slow down and stop. So I pulled it. Obviously, I don't know if you ride bikes, that's not the way it works. If you pull the throttle, you accelerate. So I accelerated and crashed into the fence, full speed. My grandpa came down and lifted the bike off me and turned it around, put me on it, and I tried to go uphill with what I've just learned about the throttle, it going the other way, and worked fine.
So you fell off the first time on the bike, but got right back on it.
Yep.
So what kind of bike is this?
It's a BMW R80 GS from 1988. It has additionally grown old because when I came back it was from 1982.
How does that make sense?
The bike's frame was exchanged along the way.
You changed the frame of the bike?
Because it was bent.
You bent the frame?
I didn't.
You did not bend the frame, but
Someone
the frame
else
got
did.
bent.
Someone else did, yes.
All right. So where did the idea to travel around the world come from?
My buddy Lars and I were working on a project for uni. Running late, working through the nights, close deadline. We were going crazy. We had been living this kind of life for way too long, and there was a point of extreme exhaustion. So we decided that after we are done with university, after we hold our degrees, there needs to be a big change. Lars suggested to buy a plane ticket, like a round-the-world plane ticket, and just go to certain important destinations and have a look around. Because I had been traveling before, I wanted to take it a step further, and then the whole idea of riding a motorcycle around the world evolved from that moment on.
Ich hab Diplom! Du auch!
Lars, he didn't have the driver's license for a bike, he didn't have a bike, but he was intrigued by the idea, so
Weil wir halt heute jetzt erstmal nach Kassel fahren und gucken uns dann das Motorrad an. Ja, und morgen um 16:15 Uhr habe ich wieder Fahrschule. Ich habe noch gar keinen Führerschein. Und dafür lerne ich jetzt gerade Theorie.
Also insgesamt 4 Halter gab's. Ja, mit mir 4.
Yay! Wollen wir mal bauen? Ich habe heute noch Fahrschule, also Stunde Praxis.
So we thought it would be a good idea to have the same bike because it would be good on the trip. In case there were problems, we could figure them out more easily by exchanging parts, and we can also, carry certain spare parts only once, and then either which one would break down first would get the part and would fit in both.
Gerade Motorrad ausgepackt und schon muss er fahren, obwohl er noch gar keinen Führerschein hat.
I think Lars is very pleased with his new toy.
Yeah, baby.
But I was very worried about him dropping our travel plans when he met someone who soon became his girlfriend.
Gerade so.
Gerade so?
Gerade so.
Echt? Das hast du falsch gemacht.
Ah, das ist jetzt für mich erklärt. War ich nervös. Ja.
Daniel insists on taking a road trip to Poland on the very same day that Lars gets his license. I'm not sure whether throwing Lars into the deep end like this will help convince him that riding motorbikes around the world is a good idea.
Lass rollen, nimm Schwung. Lass rollen, gib Gas, zweiter Gang.
Ja, doch, die ersten paar Meter, die waren ziemlich gut. Dann ging es steil bergab und irgendwie ist die Strecke nicht so richtig ausgezeichnet.
This bike is very well known to be very sturdy and easy to fix. It's very basic. There's no electronics, not too much electronics in here, so if you break down somewhere remote, people will be able to help you. But we checked everything anyway and made modifications that we hoped would make our lives easier. Basically continue doing this, what we had been doing. We had two choices. We could either, out of university, go and get a job to save up money and then go on a trip. Or we find another way. So we thought, why don't we try to just get going and try to score random jobs along the way. We were prepared to do almost everything in order to pay for our travel costs. Yes, we didn't know whether it would work, but it was an idea and was something, and we were excited about it.
What about shots? You had to get a lot of vaccinations?
We went down to this...
Travel doctor?
Something like that, yeah. And we had to get shots over a period of 6 months, several times. They wouldn't be effective after one shot.
Ey, ich fühle mich sowas von geschützt.
And I also knew from previous travels that it would be an extraordinary experience, and I would very much like to share this experience for others to get inspired and do something similar. Lars and I created this website on which we committed ourselves to writing one blog entry every day. We bought the satellite modem, which enabled us to go online anywhere in the world, and that entailed so much more work, money and effort than we anticipated.
Für eine direkte Ausrichtung zum Satelliten, da darf ja keine Wand dazwischen sein, oder ein Baum, oder ein Antennenmast.
And especially writing the blog entry in 2 languages, really, I mean, it took us at least an hour every day, sometimes more.
Disconnect Stand. Okay, ich bin Start Connected. Jetzt gehe ich mal auf die Seite der Seiten, openexplorers.com.
Hey, wir sind online, via Satellitenmodem.
In hindsight, we're glad we did it, because now I can go back to any given day and read what I have been thinking or what was going on that day.
Wir haben an einem Förderpreis teilgenommen und wir wurden nominiert.
Ja.
So, und ich wurde gerade angerufen, mir wurde das mitgeteilt und in der Stimme lag sowas wie: Alter, wenn ihr nicht vorbeikommt, seid ihr ganz schön doof.
Ich darf jetzt auf die Bühne bitten den Lars Schönflug und den Daniel Rintz. Bitte auf die Bühne zu kommen. Die beiden haben Großes vor. Die fangen nicht klein an, die gehen sofort aufs Ganze. Die wollen um die Welt.
Ja genau, ein kleines Slogan, der heißt 210, 210, 2 men, 1 world, no money.
Bin mal sehr gespannt. Also der zweite Platz, im Wert von 1.000 € um die Welt ohne Geld. Herzlichen Glückwunsch.
Heute ist es soweit, heute kriegen wir die Dokumente, die 6.300 € wert sind.
Das stimmt. Müssen wir die verlieren, sind wir am Arsch. Kriegen wir die...
The carnet de passage is required by some countries and allows travellers to temporarily import their vehicles. It is, in essence, a guarantee for payment of taxes should the vehicle not be re-exported.
Ja.
So sehen die Dinger aus.
Ah, ja.
Verrückte Welt.
So, das gibt's hier wieder.
Ja.
Vielleicht.
Mal bitte eingeben.
Okay. Hier, Vorgang wird bearbeitet.
Were you ever nervous about traveling through dangerous parts of the world?
Yes, I was very worried. I was very concerned about situations that I couldn't control, situations that I couldn't get out of, a million scenarios that could happen. I tried to prepare for every possible situation, so I had too much stuff, and I realized that the hard way. Clothing really made up the least amount of luggage that I carried. 2 pairs of pants, one was my riding gear, a couple t-shirts, a sweater, and a jacket.
No underwear.
And some underwear. Yeah, I was changing my underwear every day with Lars's underwear.
That's good. That's really good. So when you were riding all by yourself, how'd you handle the underwear situation?
Well, I changed it with locals.
Okay, good.
Ist doch nicht dein Ernst? Und das ist doch nicht mein Ernst! Jetzt mal ehrlich, das geht doch nicht.
Jetzt wird gewogen. Und zwar nicht der Lars oder ich, sondern die Motorräder.
bisschen Angst.
So, es ist der 30.08.2008 und heute wird losgemacht.
So we had a very rough tentative route because we didn't know how far and how fast we would be able to travel, because that all depended on how many jobs we would get and where we would get the jobs.
Heute Morgen war ein bisschen kribbelig im Bauch.
Und wie geht's der Daniela so?
Hat jetzt fast jeden Tag ein bisschen geweint. Und macht jetzt. Was hast du dir vorgenommen? 2 Kinder, eine Frau, mit was kommst du zurück?
Ich weiß noch nicht genau.
Ihr habt doch gar keinen Zeitplan, ne? Sondern solange
Nee.
es dauert.
Genau.
Und was denkt ihr denn über 210? Ja, super Sache.
Dieser Lars zieht das durch, auch wenn er kriecht.
I think I would be afraid without more language skills.
Abenteuerlich. Toll, toll, toll.
Ich versteck mich im Koffer und komm nicht.
Weil wenn man sie beide anschaut, haben sie zwar heute echt megamäßig die Hose voll, aber das ist auch normal. Ich komme mit.
Wir wünschen euch ganz viel Spaß, viele Erfahrungen, viel Glück.
You and Lars took off on the trip. What was that like? What did that feel like? You leave Berlin, that moment.
And knowing that you'll be gone for so long is kind of a strange feeling. You have all your friends around you, and then you put your helmet on you ride off, it's like silent. It's just you and your own voice in your head talking and trying to anticipate what's going to happen.
Die werden irgendwo im Dschungel sterben. In einem halben Jahr spätestens zurück, weil er entweder Daniela vermisst oder weil er krank ist. Ja, an dieser Stelle gibt es nur noch einen von beiden.
Jemand, der so eine Reise vorhat zu machen, machen.
And I've gone around the world twice now at almost a 30-year interval.
I looked at each other and said, okay, why can't we do this? Like, what are the reasons we're not doing it?
Ich war typisch deutsch unterwegs. Also ich hatte mir überlegt, von wann bis wann ich wo sein wollte. Ich hatte mir überlegt, ja, ich fahre so und so viele Kilometer am Tag, damit ich dann spätestens an dem und dem Tag dann da und da bin, und habe am Anfang der Reise gar nicht zugelassen, dass die Reise auf mich wirkt. Also eigentlich habe ich mich selber betrogen am Anfang. Ich habe mich selber wahrscheinlich um die eine oder andere tolle Erfahrung gebracht.
The main difference between traveling alone and going where you want, when you want, and traveling with someone else is that it is a team. You have to become a team and work together and make sure that where you go works for both of you.
Traveling on a motorcycle is a completely different experience to walking or traveling by car or anything else. I mean, the exposure to the world is at a quite different level.
Because we'd been living 24/7 for 9 months, and we saw probably more of each other than most couples see in 20, 30 years.
You're always out of your comfort zone. Saying this earlier, like sometimes it's a little, a lot of times it's a lot, but it's like every little thing that you take for granted, somewhere where everybody speaks your language and everything is set out the same way, and that disappears.
Und weil ich denke, dass man vieles einfach nur versteht, wenn man es selber erlebt und gesehen hat.
Man sollte sicherlich überlegen, ist das gefährlich? Also ich meine, wenn du dir Gedanken machst auf den Seiten des Auswärtigen Amtes und du schaust, was ist in den einzelnen Ländern los, dann dürftest du gar nicht losfahren.
The picture that is presented in the media to us in the West of various places is only a very particular aspect of that culture, and always slewed towards the sensational, the violent, the extreme.
Anyone can travel except us. Except us, I mean the Syrians. I can't go anywhere I want or anytime.
I think that's the other thing that's amazing, is like all the ideas that I had about what this trip would be and what it would mean to me, they're all kind of turned upside down.
The best advice to give to someone who goes traveling would be travel slowly. That's something I learned about traveling. Travel slowly and be open for other people you meet on the way.
I really advise that the people shouldn't just go through these countries. They need to go through the people also.
Also ich habe kein iPod oder irgendwie Stöpsel im Ohr gehabt, sondern ich habe jetzt 22.000 Kilometer immer nur den Fahrtwind, mein Motorrad und einfach die Natur wahrgenommen und meine Gedanken natürlich, über was ich gerade so nachgedacht habe. Und es war nicht 1 Kilometer langweilig.
Like when we met, me and Ayman and Lars in Damascus. It was great. It was a great coincidence.
No, I'm quite enjoying meeting people from my country, or especially from my area, or even more from Dresden. We met on Chorro Highway and I enjoyed it really much.
So my feeling is that those of us who do travel should take a responsibility for making sure that we bring the truth back to our own people and tell them.
Spaghetti! Zum 3. Mal jetzt.
The first couple of nights we spent at friends' places. And then we soon started to camp.
How do you find a camping spot?
So we would ride along, and then a couple hours before sunset we would start scanning the landscape and would go off the road until we would find a nice tucked away spot. Places where we can possibly hide. The rule, I think, is you either find a place where nobody finds you, or you make sure everybody knows you're there.
You head south.
Yes.
Go to Paris.
Yeah.
See a few sights. You boot it down to Bordeaux.
Yep. We saw the sand dune.
What was that like? Did you get to ride on them?
No. That was a different chapter. We had to wait till Africa for that.
Oh, so you got to ride some sand dunes.
I got, yeah, lifelong dream.
That's a lifelong dream?
Of mine, yeah. Well, I prefer traveling overland and going by bike because you get every bit of the transition you get to see. I really want to know about all the bits in between highlights and sights.
So Lars, erzähl uns mal, wo wir sind.
Wir sind in einem Gebiet namens El Chorro, was sich dadurch auszeichnet, dass hier ganz viele Wege, Pfade quasi an die Berge gemeißelt wurden, um, keine Ahnung, irgendwelche Waren in diesen Kanälen lang zu fahren und dann zu entladen. Ich bin mir da nicht sicher, ich müsste es nochmal nachlesen. Nagel mich da jetzt nicht fest. Ich find's geil hier.
Sparing no thought for safety, Daniel and Lars find various ways to enjoy their adventure. Of course, there are more profound things to discover. But I guess boys will be boys.
Ich find's geil. Es hat auf alle Fälle gelohnt, hier eine Nacht zu campen. Das ist schon ganz schön beeindruckend hier. Also, aber jetzt geht's gut, ne?
Das war ein echter Thrill, oder? Hast du dich da wohl gefühlt?
Das war jetzt nicht so schlimm.
And El Chorro in the south of Spain is where you made it over to Tunisia?
Short answer, yes.
Wie der denn aus? Probier's mit dem einfach. Ich probier's. Ich sehe mir recht ähnlich.
This is Lars' first time outside of Europe.
Totally.
What was that like for him?
I think he was very excited.
This little girl we saw with the donkey and the 4 water cans. She was getting water from up here for the animals.
Because it is good, lad.
Yeah.
How did you find Tunisia?
On a map, you mean?
Did you like Tunisia? How about that? Did you like Tunisia?
I like Tunisia. I would have liked to spend more time in Tunisia. Obviously, we enjoyed camping in Africa because the climate was so much more conducive. We camped out at a dump yard of some sort. Yeah, there were like shipwrecks. The dump yard was a couple of 100 miles from the coast. Really weird.
Auf der Karte ist hier Wasser eingezeichnet in der Nähe. Vielleicht gab es hier mal Süßwasser.
Fällt ja wohl keiner hierher, oder?
Komm, wir gucken mal auf die Plakette von dem Motor, da steht bestimmt ein Baujahr drauf. Das sind einfach zu viel Bucht, dass die jemand hierher bringen würde. Und warum?
Call me impatient, but I wish Daniel and Lars would start getting to the bottom of what they encounter. It'll only become more foreign the further they travel.
Das kann nicht deren Ernst sein.
Das ist der absolute Hammer. Das habe ich noch nie gesehen. Wir dachten halt, die wollen die häuten und dann stecken die da eine Pumpe irgendwie rein und die haben einfach Luft hier zwischen Haut und Fleisch reingepumpt.
Did you eat there?
Reluctantly.
Wow. How much was a goat kebab?
I don't remember, but it wasn't much.
How are you living? I mean, let's get back to the whole idea of not having any money. Well,
the first time we had to stop for work was pretty soon after we left. After a couple of days, when the fuel tank ran empty, we kind of thought, okay, what now? And then we sent around some desperate emails. Hey guys, do you have some job that we can do over the internet maybe? Or can we design something for you on the fly? And the first guy who answered was my ex-boss from London, who said, well, I have lots of work, and why didn't you come by? I give you things to do.
Denn ich weiß, du hast jetzt gerade keinen Bock, aber erzähl mal, wo sind wir hier?
Weiß ich auch nicht so genau.
We worked on a construction site. That kind of became our day job.
So that's the plan. And I'm Dan the man with the plan. This is drawing 526, quantity number 6, north elevation. That's going to tell us
we're at the wrong building site.
we're in the wrong building. We ought to be over there.
Oh, that building. Oh, is that the building we're supposed to be?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
so how were you planning on getting jobs while you were on the road?
We had no strategy about getting jobs. So in the beginning, it was harder than it was towards the end because we knew the drill. Basically, what worked for me is to approach people before I got to some place. I would write emails, I'll talk to people that I came across and they knew other people that would be on my route. So I'd build up a network beforehand. And then when I get someplace, they would sometimes look out for me and help me find something.
You weren't camping this whole time. You weren't in Wimbledon Park like the last time you were in London.
No. No, we were living in the workshop, yeah, underneath the working bench. On our mattress that we would use in the tents and
Just
in our
like a
sleeping
little
bag.
air mattress?
Yeah. Sometimes bubble wrap on top because it was cold. It was very basic. We didn't even have a shower, so we had to build one.
You built a shower. Okay. I wonder what that's like.
Wie lange sind wir jetzt hier?
Eine Woche, anderthalb.
1,5 Wochen nicht wirklich geduscht, sondern nur mit irgendeinem Waschlappen abgewischt. Das ist echt super optimal. Unsere Dusche ist dieses Waschbecken zurzeit. Aber das sieht vielversprechend aus. Ich möchte sehen, wie der ganze kleine Radasch auf den Kopf fällt. Du stellst dich jetzt nicht in eine Tonne. Oh Gott! Wenn du deine Füße waschen willst in der Tonne, knallst du doch hin, rammst dir irgendwie den Kopf da in so einen Haken rein und dann bin ich Mechaniker los.
Du könntest mir ja schon gefallen tun und schon mal die Wasserkocher ansetzen.
Der Daniel, der ist so clever. Ich bin so froh, dass ich mit dem Daniel unterwegs bin.
Diese Ironie. Du wirst die Dusche ja dann so geil finden, dass du auch duschen willst.
Na klar.
regnet's. Vielleicht kann ich noch mal eine Nadel kriegen, damit es ein bisschen netter wird.
Bitte schön.
Und das ist echt geil. Warmes Wasser von oben.
Hey, ich freue mich schon, wenn ich die auch benutzen kann. Haben wir uns mal eine Dusche gebaut. Also der Daniel uns.
You saved up a whole lot of money over that 8 to 10 weeks, and that was enough for you to survive all the way to Egypt?
Pretty much. I think it got us going for a couple of months.
And it was in Egypt that you got to ride on some sand dunes,
That's right.
What was that like?
My life dream. It's very cool to ride on the sand dunes. I didn't know that Marianne would be a bike that you could take in the deep sand, but I got some very knobby tires delivered from Germany. I put them on. Really tough to ride on the road. You can't go faster than 80 km an hour, and Lars had a problem with the tires later.
Also wenn man abends keine Lust mehr hat, irgendwie das Motorrad richtig hinzustellen mit Ständer und Brett drunter und nicht einsinken und einen richtigen Winkel und vielleicht noch Hauptständer einsinken, umkippen.
Ja, ist nervig, ne?
Dann macht man einfach sowas. Geht ganz schnell und steht ganz gut. Erstes Mal halt nochmal ausprobieren, ob sich das bewährt, oder?
I really enjoyed learning how to ride a bike from scratch. It is really different riding on sand. It's nothing that I've ever come across before. It's not like on snow, it's not like on mud. You put in first gear, pull the throttle full, and then let the clutch go and wait until you pick up momentum. And then you have to go fast, you can't go slow. You can't stop in the valleys. If you want to stop, you have to stop on the top of the dunes.
Otherwise you're gonna be pushing your bike all the way up the hill, right?
There was no pushing. Every time I stopped, the bike sank in up to the axles.
Wow. Did you fall at all?
I fell once, yes. But it's not too bad, you know. So basically it's like full throttle, never change gear if you're going uphill, or find a solid patch of sand to change gear and just handle it like a boat. Put some weight on one footrest and you go left. Put some weight on the right footrest and you go right. It's like sliding all the time. It's not driving, it's not riding. It's awesome.
I want to talk about the sandstorm. What's it like riding through a sandstorm?
Well, the bike looked like new afterwards, like sandblasted.
Really?
Yeah, the chrome parts and aluminium parts, they were like polished.
Really?
Yeah.
Ja, aber das Sand im Augen ist scheiße, ne? Das macht wenig Spaß. So wie das hier so aussieht, ne? So fühlst du dich.
Ich fühle mich gerade ein bisschen zerstreut, dreckig, ausgetrocknet quasi. Und ich kann echt nicht in die Ferne blicken, ja.
Du weißt nicht, was die Zukunft bringt.
I was a bit worried about Lars. He seemed down for some reason, but I thought it's just a phase.
Was it difficult going from so much barren landscape to like a crazy city like Cairo?
That's one of the things that I really like about traveling. It's the extremes. You come from a very quiet place and get into a bustling metropolis.
Also hier wird sich ganz ordentlich 12-spurig angestellt. Und dann, wenn es Signal gibt, dann wird 12-spurig auf die Kreuzung zugehalten. Jetzt geht's los, es geht los, es geht los! Also man weiß noch nicht genau, wann genau das Signal ist.
Ich glaube, es ist ein Hub-Morse-Code.
It must be easy to start up conversations with strangers.
It's not just easy, it's inevitable. The question that I heard most is, where are you from?
Everybody, first question.
Yeah, I got to a point where I was annoyed about hearing that question. If you get it 10 times a day for months and months, you just don't want to answer it anymore. If people ask me where I'm from, I don't want to give them the chance to put me in a drawer, like in a category. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Ein Job. Wir brauchen einen Job.
Du brauchst auch einen Job?
Ich brauche einen Job.
Ohne Scheiß.
Ernsthaft mal.
Wir sind jetzt hier bis nach Ägypten gekommen.
Ja, wie man unschwer erkennen kann.
Und jetzt müssen wir ein bisschen arbeiten erstmal. Wir sind pleite.
Genau.
So where was the next opportunity to make money?
I remember we picked up a couple of jobs that we could do over the internet. So just some small stuff, a couple $100 that helped us cope.
So, wir müssen ja hier arbeiten, aber man kann sagen, die Arbeitsbedingungen sind auch nicht schlecht.
Auf jeden Fall.
I mean, I'm surprised the London construction job got you this far.
Well, we ended up doing a lot more in London, and we wanted to try to save up as much money as possible. Fitting windows was only our day job. During the nights and evenings, we would be working in the shop. We were doing design work, printing banners and stickers. We weren't getting much sleep those days.
So you did a lot of manual labor?
Manual labor, yeah. And we also put the neighbor's floor in.
Es ist jetzt halb 12 oder? Aber das ist mal ganz geil, weil wir nicht die ganze Zeit vom Rechner hängen. Mal was anderes. Das war ganz gut.
Fertig oder was, oder wieder?
And by the time we left London, it was late autumn or fall. So we decided to escape the cold weather by going south first before heading east.
So go the southern way around the Mediterranean and not the northern way.
That's right.
That's a huge change. That's a whole other continent.
I know.
That's a whole set of visas and...
But then again, you know, the journey was about being very open and loose about when and where to go.
I like the laid-back attitude, but I'm starting to anticipate a lot of frustration coming with this change of route.
So the plan was to go through Spain, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, and so on. But we learned that the border between Morocco and Algeria had been closed for a long time. So we focused on getting over to Algeria. Getting ferry tickets was easy, visas, not so much. We ended up being stuck in Spain for over 3 months.
Ja, es ist der 22.01.2009 und wir warten auf unsere Pässe.
Hallo, ich habe ganz schlechte Nachrichten. Eure Pässe sind fertig, aber von der Botschaft zurückgehalten. Warum auch immer.
Was?
Und wenn Sie am Montagnachmittag kommen, ist es zu spät, die Fähre umzubuchen und wir verlieren die 600 € oder 700 €.
700 €.
Weil gegen die nächste Fähre.
Nein, Daniel.
But you were at least making good use of your wait time, right? You got these front panniers made in Spain.
Yeah, I wanted to work them into the design seamlessly. I went to get an aluminium sheet, or aluminum, if you would say in North America, and build these panniers.
That's amazing. And these ones could lock, right?
Yes.
Your other ones couldn't lock.
It's like unlocked now. Let me see the key. So it locks in these 5 places.
Yeah. All of a sudden you could distribute the weight a little bit more evenly across
the bike.
Yeah,
it was much better because in these front panniers I put all the things that I wouldn't need on a daily basis.
Getting visas for Algeria isn't the only challenge at this point. It turns out that traveling through Libya requires a very expensive but mandatory 24-hour guide. Luckily, Daniel and Lars find 2 other travelers on the internet willing to group up and share the cost. However, the rendezvous at the Libyan border is only a few days away.
Vorschlag, die Fähre von Marseille, Tunis.
The boys are now torn between 2 options. A, wait until they eventually obtain their Algerian visas and use the €700 ferry tickets already purchased, but miss the chance to group up for Libya. Or B, ride 1,000 kilometers up to Marseille, France, buy new ferry tickets over to Tunisia and make the rendezvous at the Libyan border. Both options burn about the same amount of money.
Wir haben mal nicht nach Spanien gefahren, ey. Oh, gosh. Eigentlich will ich mich bewegen und der Daniel ist auch nicht so richtig schlüssig und darum werden wir jetzt Münze werfen. Bist du damit einverstanden? Na dann los.
We made it just in time. We grouped up and shared the cost of going through Libya, which was stunning, but way too short. In hindsight, I think it was good to do this big push to finally make it over to this new world, Africa. I thought we had a great time in the Middle East. We saw so many famous sites like the pyramids, Petra, the Dead Sea, although Mount Sinai ended up being quite a different experience. Like 4 in the morning, it was still dark. We heard people come up chanting. Maybe 100 or 200 pilgrims came up the mountain, and it wasn't long until we just got out of our tent and realized that we were like in the middle of a crowd.
Also eigentlich müsste da Freude aus meinem Gesicht rauspurzeln und ich fühle mich so richtig eins mit der Natur, genauso wie die anderen 100 Leute hier oben.
Even though not everything we learned made sense right away, I was amazed and really excited to travel further.
Wenn dir was passiert wäre?
Ja, ist ja nichts passiert.
Bist du ja ganz schön weit gerutscht, ha?
50 Meter zurück habe ich mich halt hingepackt. Weil diese tollen Reifen halt super grobstollig sind. Ab 100 oder so haben die angefangen richtig zu schlackern, zu eiern. Ich habe es nicht mehr kontrollieren können und dann irgendwann bin ich halt nicht hingelegt. Und jetzt ist halt der Lenker verbogen und die Bremsleitung ist undicht und ich kann Gras eben nicht mehr betätigen. Aber ich habe ja meinen Medikus dabei für die verletzten Motorräder.
Hier ist aufgerissen.
Scheiße, ey. Und das da sieht auch nicht gut aus. Guck dir das mal an. Wow. Hallo. Hörst du mich?
Ja, ich höre dich.
Ach, da bist du endlich. Wie soll ich das denn sagen? Ich habe mal ein bisschen mit dem Daniel gesprochen so. Meint ja hier, Lars, ich habe das die ganze Zeit jetzt gemerkt und so, erzähl mir mal genau das, was du denkst. So, ne? Und dann sind wir ins Gespräch gekommen. Und das kriege ich auch nicht, das habe ich auch ganz früh schon gemerkt eigentlich, dass ich, wenn wir mal lange Fahrten hatten, so und in Gedanken abgeschweift bin, dann habe ich super oft an zu Hause gedacht. Und also irgendwie ist mir das alles so ein bisschen über den Kopf gewachsen und ich habe es nicht mitgekriegt, worauf ich mich da eigentlich einlasse. Und als ich da mittendrin war, wollte ich es mir nicht eingestehen, dass es einfach zu viel ist. Im Grunde genommen bereue ich gar nichts von dem, was ich jetzt in den letzten Monaten erlebt habe und auch davor und dass ich es geplant habe, dass ich gestartet habe. Ich bereue es halt nur, dass ich jetzt das Gefühl habe, dich im Stich zu lassen. Und ja gut, dann gibt es natürlich auch den Grund, dass ich zurück zu dir will. Mit anderen Worten, ich werde bis zur Türkei fahren und dann nach Hause kommen. Und das ist mein Ernst.
Wenn das jetzt nicht dein Ernst war, dann muss ich dich umbringen.
Nee, das ist definitiv mein Ernst.
Ich glaube, ich kann heute Nacht nicht schlafen.
Ja,
Ich rufe jetzt meine Mutter an.
Mach das mal.
I think it was a huge relief for him when I said that I would have no problem with him going home early.
Also ich beneide dich, dass du weiterhin geile Erlebnisse hast, aber ich beneide dich nicht um die Art der Reise.
Even though I knew that a couple hotspots were lying ahead of me, there was no question about whether I would or would not continue the trip. I had set my mind to doing this. I was a bit nervous about, being on my own from then on. If you're traveling in twos, you're like a unit. If you're on your own, it's different. Because you can't even park your bike next to a supermarket, go inside and buy stuff. All your stuff is on it, and then if people will take it, maybe. On the other hand, being on my own made me pay more attention to my environment. And people were also more likely to approach me and offer help. But tackling all the upcoming areas along my route on my own made me a bit nervous.
The Kurds have been fighting for their independence in eastern Turkey for decades. There are regular reports of casualties. Further along the route lie Iran and Pakistan, countries currently in the spotlight for the violence and political upheaval there.
East Turkey turned out to be easygoing, but Iran was a big worry, and also Pakistan.
Heute vor 249 Tagen haben Daniel und ich den Versuch gestartet, die Welt auf 2 Motorrädern ohne Startkapital zu umrunden. Während für Daniel die Reise natürlich weitergeht, ist heute mein letzter Reisetag angebrochen. Daniel, ich wünsche dir auf deine weitere Reise viel Glück. Ich hoffe, du kommst heil und munter wieder an.
And I would need all the luck that I could get to make it into Iran. There were the elections going on. The people weren't happy with the outcome of the elections. They thought it was a fraud. And I remember my sister sending me an email with a news article about the demonstrations going on in all the major cities, in Isfahan, Yazd, and especially Tehran. The Iranian police, they were very rigorous. They shot people in the streets. Everyone who reported about that was either captured or sent out of the country. And I was nervous about going into Iran. All the gear that I carried, the audio recording, the satellite modem, the laptop, the cameras and everything, I could be mistaken for a journalist. So I tried to hide, I did hide my satellite modem next to the battery underneath the seat here. When I rode to the border, I was alone. There was no one else crossing, probably because of the demonstrations.
What's not to like when a tense situation turns into a walk in the park? This is often the reward when one leaves one's comfort zone and explores the unknown.
So I was alone at the border and I was greeted by this one officer who took my passport and got me to sit down and offered a tea, and I had a good talk with him. And in the meantime, someone in the background ran all the process of getting me into the country, like stamping the visa and getting the carnet stamped and everything. So after 20 minutes, they came back with everything and wished me good luck and a good time in the country. They didn't even touch my bike, didn't even look at it.
Really? That's totally different than what you would expect or
What
hear
I
in
expected,
the papers.
yeah.
And
Yeah, very different.
Going through Iran, were you able to see any sights or go spend time in the cities? Or did you avoid them because of the demonstrations?
I avoided Tehran. I went to other cities like Esfahan and Yazd and Kerman.
So was Iran a big surprise to you?
In many ways. I found it full of contradiction. In one way, I met so many young students that are really worldly thinking and really aware of what their country is made out to be through the media. They took so much time out of their day to drive me to some nice places in the mountains outside the city. And invited me to their house to eat with them and watch them dance and do like social activities. And after a couple of days, you know, you say goodbye to them and I want to give them a hug, which is something I would do, but I couldn't because that's inappropriate. You can't touch a woman, which is weird. You just stand there on the street. So yeah, that's been fun. Can't shake their hand, like, thank you. This is so weird. One highlight in Iran I remember was going to the Khalots, which is an area north of Kerman, I think. And it's like two mountain ranges, and the hot air from the south moves up north and kind of gets intensified in that valley, and the heat goes up really high. It's one of the hottest places in the world. It goes up to sometimes 60, 70 degrees Celsius. I wanted to see the sandstone formations anyway, so I went there in the evening just before sunset. And when I got there at around 7, I think it was still 50 degrees. And it didn't go below 40 the whole night.
Weren't you scared of scorpions?
No.
Snakes?
No.
Murderers?
Yes. Oh, actually, there's one part that is not to joke about. Apparently, that area is affected by drug war. Camels coming from Afghanistan, going through Iran, and these camels are trained to go a certain route, and they go without a guide, without humans. So they cut their humps open.
They cut their humps open?
They cut their humps open, fill it with opium and sew it together, and then they're like mules, but camels.
So instead of coke mules in Iran, they have opium camels.
That's right. So maybe I should have been afraid of the camel.
Of the camels?
Yeah,
the opium camels.
The very violent opium camels.
Because they're not humping around, they're just...
No, they mean business.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I went. It was very interesting camping out in the desert. And in the morning, I kind of escaped back up the mountains and then onto the plateau.
The city of Bam provides shelter on the last night in Iran. In 2003, Bam was hit by a massive earthquake that killed over 26,000 people. Not only were people crushed by falling buildings, but some were suffocated by the desert sand stirred up by the shockwaves.
Everywhere I looked was devastation. I felt like half the population was missing. But all the obstacles up until that point were like kid stuff. Anyway, that's my kind of categorizing the difficulties.
What did you know about Pakistan before you...
Well, I knew that there were huge fights going on between the Pakistani government and Taliban, and it was mandatory for me to be escorted by armed guards.
Only a few weeks earlier, a French traveller was kidnapped from a small village on our route. Kidnappings are common here, orchestrated either by local criminals or the Taliban looking to make money from a ransom. Since Pakistan became an Islamic and parliamentary republic in 1956, no government has been able to make it through the 4-year ruling period without being overthrown. Despite all this, thorough research shows there's no other way but through.
So I planned to go through Pakistan in the least amount of time, just to reduce the risk of getting kidnapped or stuff like that.
How many days were you planning to spend in there?
Well, I calculated that I could do it in 4 days if I ride 12 hours a day. I was researching the road conditions and the places I could stop safely. And I said, okay, in 4 days you can do it. And at the border, I met this New Zealander. He came from the other side, from India, passing through Pakistan, going into Iran. But he was shaking. He was like a nerve wreck. He told me that he would never go there again. He hated it. He told me that he heard bombs going off during the night when he was sleeping in the hotels. But by that time, it was just too late to turn around.
Every border crossing refuels the traveller's excitement. But this one comes with a whole new set of tension. And when tension is high, something usually breaks. For the first time in 15 years, Daniel's loyal companion lets her rider down. The timing couldn't be any worse.
It's very close, you know, it's like literally 50 kilometers from the Afghani border and a couple of miles from where the French guy got kidnapped. In that moment, I think I wasn't nervous or anything. My brain switched into survival mode. So I thought, what can I do to get out of here, right? I was with the escorts, right? So they wouldn't want to have anything to do with it. So they brought me to a place, very small village with small houses, like really basic. And they brought me to this guy, and I pushed my bike into the backyard of this guy's home. He's a very kind-looking man, young man. And then the escort took off, right? So the guy, really cool guy, he handed me his cell phone and said, "You want to call somebody?" I was like, wow. First, what an offer. I mean, he expected me to make an international phone call with his cell phone. Wouldn't be cheap. And then the second thing I thought, well, who do I call?
Film or photo? Film. I'm here too.
I wouldn't call my parents. They would worry unnecessarily. I wouldn't call my mechanic to send me the part because I wasn't sure which one I needed. And then the guy said, well, your best bet to fix the bike is to get to Islamabad, which is the capital of Pakistan. And he said, well, I can arrange a truck which you can put your bike on to go to Quetta, and from Quetta, people will help you to make it to Islamabad. He also told me that he was the chief of police of that area. So I stayed with him and his servant for a night, and the next morning he drove off in a really nice looking, really proper uniform with lots of bling on the shoulder. It was like a bunch of black SUVs and tinted windows, and one of the guys opened the door for him. So I think he may have been the chief of police of Balochistan after all. So yeah, I feel honored to have shared a meal with him. The ride on the truck to Quetta was quite tough, the whole day in unbearable heat.
There was a problem with the truck on the way though, wasn't there?
The road through the desert is very narrow. And at one stage, the truck swerved around another truck and came off the road too far and threatened to tip over, going down the left shoulder of the road. And that would have been the end of my bike for sure.
Were you in the back?
I hopped off the back as soon as the truck stopped. I noticed we were standing in a dangerously steep angle. Yeah, and the truck driver got very nervous. Everybody went quiet. An armed kind of officer or something, he looked towards the north where the Afghani border is. I don't know, to check if there's a Taliban attack, I don't know. It's stupid, but it was really quiet and everyone knew about the seriousness of the situation, but nobody said anything.
How did they get out of that one?
Yes. Okay.
Where do you stay in Quetta?
They brought me to like a hotel, which they ordered me to stay at. They just said, this is the safest place for you. You stay here. So it took me a couple of days until I found a way to get my bike on a train and my ass on the way to Islamabad. And the train ride offered an entirely new perspective on the country. From the train, I could see different things than you can see from the road. Because it was so hot, there was no air conditioning in the train. So we pulled down all the windows and the dust would come in and the heat would come in. It would be 50 degrees. Also to be around these people, you can't read their, I mean, if you're not accustomed to the culture, it's really hard to read their facial expressions. The train ride lasted, I don't know, 2 days or 3 days. And I was so worn out, not sleeping well for several nights, and the heat and food, I couldn't get food. The train would stop, but I wouldn't know how long for. So I didn't dare to get off the train to buy something. Anyways, I made it to Islamabad.
So this is my train ride.
I was stranded in a way that I was running low on money. I wasn't expecting to having to stay in that area for too long. I wanted to plot through to make it to India, where the language barrier I thought would be less and possibilities for job would be better. So I was lacking a travel buddy, running out of money, had a broken bike, and I was stuck in the least favorable place that I could think of. But I didn't want to linger there either. I figured getting the spare parts sent from Germany would take weeks, if they made it at all. And if I was to fly home to get the parts myself, I'd have to borrow money for the flight. And even then, I don't think I could have brought myself back to this place and the situation I was in.
I've never seen Daniel like this, just wandering around aimlessly. Something has to give, if he's to continue his journey.
I was approached by one of the guys in that slum. His name was David, and he just invited me to his home.
On the road.
On the road, yeah, and on the...
people living on the road.
Yeah.
They also, the 300 people in the jail,
Yeah.
and one is dead. The 2 children died last 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Last week.
Yes.
Because too much art. No water. No water.
No water.
No eating.
And apparently the people that lived in that slum were Christians. It's like the largest minority in Pakistan. It's like 2%.
Nowadays too much problem here. And nobody listening for poor people. No even government listening.
Okay.
This is very bad. Many times these people make problem for us.
Okay.
They break my everything.
And you live in a big community. There's
Yes.
many more people, many more Christians
Many more Christians.
live in this area.
Yes, yes. Everybody Christian here.
Yes.
Yes,
And they've broken everyone's house?
yes. Because around 20 houses.
20 houses they destroyed.
Destroyed.
Yes.
With big bulldozer coming, you know.
Really? With
Yeah.
a big bulldozer? Okay.
Yes.
And do you think there's a safe place for Christians to go to in Pakistan?
No difficulties are there. Very difficult.
Yeah?
It's very difficult.
Who's doing this to people?
Extremists, I guess, who are against other religions, right?
They are running. They close the door. They close the door and burn the, burns, what do you call it? Kerosene oil. Putting kerosene oil and burn.
They burn the house?
Yes, yes. Burn the household, the person inside. They are also killed. All burn this house. And people this dead.
They invited me to dinner. They gave me a present, like a t-shirt. And then the last day, he asked me whether I could marry his daughter. He needed to find a way to get his family and himself into a European refugee camp. I can't even begin to think what it must mean for a father to ask a stranger to marry his daughter in order to better their chances of survival. So, and I guess that was kind of a point where everything changed for me. I realized how this trip isn't about me so much. It's about how the whole world works.
सत्ते खैर है जो दर्द उससे कम लेगा सब बोलो
Finally, I found the area where all the mechanics were located. I found a very kind, very nice man, half a dozen of sons working for him, and I said, well, I'll try to help you. I'm not sure whether we can find the bearing that you need. But he sent all his sons out into all directions to find the parts that I needed. And they also built, I have it here actually, they built this tool for me so I can take out the drive shaft. And I came back the next day, and the day after, and the third day. They said, well, we found something. These are the bearings that would fit in size. So they welded the bearings into place, and it worked. And because of that bike breaking down, I was forced to spend so much time in that country, and I got to know so many people who were so kind and amazing in a way. They wanted me to continue my journey and tell everybody about my experience in Pakistan, because they are well aware of how they are portrayed in the rest of the world. So from the 4 days, turned out to be, I don't know, 6 weeks.
So in a way, does that make you appreciate those tough moments that you had?
Yeah, they brought me there. They brought me to that state of mind, that change. If I'd continued to worry about how things would work out, I think I would have gone insane.
So how did you stay positive in those low moments?
I just knew from experience that there would be a good moment around the corner. That's how it always went. So I just let go a bit and let the universe decide of how I get someplace. I was still aiming to get where I wanted to go or to have the experiences that I wanted to have, but I didn't decide on how this should happen.
Changing one's state of mind can be like crossing a border. You're the same person, but things look different on the other side.
When was the next chance that you had to make money?
I rode into India. I was really worn out from all the events that happened, and I needed to get a clearer head again. So I escaped into the northern parts of India, into the mountains where it's much cooler.
Having made it through the hotspots, Daniel has been feeling detached from the travel community for quite a while. Now that he's back among other tourists, I'm glad he has the chance to calibrate to a more social environment again.
So Anu, what do you say? What's your opinion? General opinion?
Very good.
Very good.
Every day, for me, fantastic.
It is beautiful scenery.
Hello, my friend. We are in the paradise.
We are in the paradise.
Yes, it's not the reality. We are like in a dream.
How high are we right now?
700 more or less. Yeah.
And how high are we gonna go up today?
About 4,600 meters.
4,600?
Balaka Pass will in 10 kilometers after.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty high.
No, if we go to the state Leh,
Yeah.
then we will pass 5,600 meters Tanglangla Pass.
5,600 meters?
Yeah.
Holy moly. We might get some altitude sickness. Maybe. Some of us.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? You're used to it. You live here. You come up here every year, several times.
You also, you look big smile you have.
Yeah.
And you are fine.
Yeah, I will be fine. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nice.
And this is where I became stationary for a while to continue a job for a client through the internet. I also caught up on what was going on at home, and a girl that I knew from Berlin, she was a friend of a friend, sent me an email saying she wanted to come to Southeast Asia to travel. She suggested to catch up over coffee if I was there at the time. And I wouldn't have minded the coffee with a fellow German, but I couldn't possibly plan 5 months ahead. My focus was on finding a way out of the subcontinent India, which represented a dead end to me.
There are only two unlikely options for Daniel to ride to Southeast Asia from here, either through the military-run dictatorship of Burma or through China. The Burma route requires a soldier to ride his motorcycle across the country while Daniel flies over to meet them on the other side. The idea of parting with his bike would leave him sleepless.
And I didn't want to fly, as I said earlier. I want to ride through the world, not just skim over it. I want to, wear the country going through it.
So where are we going?
We are going to Palace.
Nice. Okay, let's have a look.
The other option was China. I had met a Swiss guy months and months before, and he paid a huge amount of money to go through China.
Backpacking through China would be pretty straightforward, but taking your own vehicle into the country, especially the Tibet region, is incredibly costly because of permits and a mandatory 24-hour guide. Daniel simply can't afford it.
I had no idea about how to get to Southeast Asia, but everything that I learned on the trip so far told me that something will come up. I find that if you have a certain budget and you go somewhere for a certain amount of time, let it be a couple of weeks or 3 months, you know it's going to be limited, and then you go back home. If you're on the road for an indefinite amount of time, it's very different. It's not a phase, and you deal with it in a different way. Everything that happens, everything that occurs is part of your life, is your life. It's not a vacation.
Chocolate walnuts. Chocolate cookies.
Wow.
Try.
Thank you. Very nice.
biscuits, some cigarettes, gold flag.
No tobacco.
No rolling tobacco.
No, I don't smoke.
Oh.
So one day I came across a big, bright red truck with German license plates on it. I mean, what are the odds of seeing a German truck in the Himalayas? There was no one around, so I left a note under the window wiper with my email address and saying that I was a German too, traveling in the area. And they got back to me a month later. I was in another country by then. I was stationary in Kathmandu for quite a while. I was working on a job. It's a very poor country. It's very troubled. So there's lots of street kids. And I met this Irish guy. He was volunteering at this Nepali orphanage.
Yeah, the number's rising. I mean, as Kathmandu continues to grow and prosper and become more accessible to tourism, more people are coming into the city from the rural areas in search of better things, and quite often they'll end up living on the streets. Some of them would have come from the breakdown of the family. Some would have maybe one or two parents deceased. Some of the families just are in such dire poverty that they can't afford to keep them. The social and political factors here in Nepal at the minute aren't so good, and so there's a lack of funding going towards these marginalised groups.
So one day I tagged along to visit the orphanage with Sean. They were short on resources, couldn't pay their rent. And the more I got into knowing all these details and how it all worked, the more I realized how I couldn't just walk away. Before I went on my hike, we decided to make a short video and post it on my website and ask people to maybe make a small contribution towards this orphanage. And to give it some time, we went on a 10-day hike because I really wanted to see Mount Everest with my own eyes. So we took a 30-minute plane ride to the jump-off point for most Everest excursions.
Hi, I'm Siddharth Sharma. I work with an Indian news channel called Star News, and I'm a news anchor. If you were in India, you would know me. I'm pretty popular there, boastful. I'm here to cover the climate meet that the Nepalese government is holding at Kalapathar, and they won't be staying there for more than 20 minutes, so they're going to do their bit, symbolic signatures, and they'll come down and then hold a press conference and tell the world that the glaciers are melting.
I'm sitting here on top of the Gokyo Peak, and the panorama is just amazing. This, with the head in the clouds, that's the Everest. It's only about 5,300 and some meters high, but it's like my personal record. I'm pretty exhausted. As far as oxygen level goes, it's like 50% left up here. So I have to deal with half the oxygen up here. It's also pretty amazing.
And by the time I came back from the hike, Around about 1,500 euros had accumulated on my bank account from people that followed my website and wanted to help the orphanage.
5 Europeans in the back of a tiny Suzuki taxi going through the streets of Kathmandu. Can someone please explain to me what we're doing here?
We are delivering charity donations, but also there was some money left over, which all became secret Santas and gone and bought some presents for the kids, which is the reason why we're here in the car, packed it in like chickens.
So what are your personal feelings about now as we get closer and closer to the orphanage? What's the feeling like?
You know, if you look around the car, there's 5 Europeans and 5 huge smiles on their faces.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
I might cry.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I think I might cry as well.
Make sure you put the soft.
So it's blue for boys and it's red for girls.
My friends and my family and all the people that follow my website, they got about 1,400 euros together. I've been going to the cash machine for several days. This is for the kids.
Oh.
This is 1.4 lakh.
Oh. Thank you so much.
Your friends, Daniel, and thank you for caring for our kids. And
No problem.
thank you so much, guys.
Your face is priceless. And how are you feeling? How
Really
did you
good.
guys do?
Yeah.
We did it.
Yeah.
What about the red truck? Didn't they get back to you by email around this time?
Yes, it was like a dream come true. They were looking for other travelers that they could group up with in order to go through Tibet. I never dreamt I would ever get to that place and be able to ride my own bike. That was an awesome opportunity, and I was very happy about having left a note under the window wiper.
And that got you to Southeast Asia?
Yes. Once you know what you need in order to get through, you kind of understand why the cost is so high. You need a Chinese number plate, you need to get the Chinese driver's license, you need to have a guide that is with you at all times. Beforehand, you have to determine the route and have to check in at several checkpoints along the way. If you exceed the time that you're allowed to stay in China, you pay a fine.
So did you guys set a tight schedule, or?
Yes, but we allowed a couple of extra days just to be safe in case we had a problem. And we did have problems. We had technical problems with the trucks, the high altitude, the diesel would freeze, and I got food poisoning. Got really sick, I had to throw up, and I couldn't keep any food inside of me for a long time. And I got weaker and weaker, and in addition to this, we were going up really high, over 4,000 meters, and the roads were icy and slippery, so all this didn't help.
So for the most part, it was a pretty stressful leg of the journey getting over to Southeast Asia.
It was one of the most stressful in terms of health, yes. It was very taxing on my body. Sometimes we'd be riding like 12 hours a day.
While you're sick?
Yeah.
Were you ever affected by altitude sickness?
I think I was riding through Tibet. Having a weak body makes it easier for the altitude sickness to come in and threaten your life. I think it's life-threatening. I think.
Can be, yeah.
Can be, yeah.
It was a tough section for both man and machine. Pouring boiling water over the bike's engine is not exactly the best way to start it after a freezing night. But for now, it's the only option.
And there was one moment where I was so sick, actually a couple of days, that I was so weak, I couldn't even sit upright. So I had to put my motorbike on another truck, which I had to pay, so we can make it to the next checkpoint. I remember this one magical encounter with this monk. I think he blessed Marianne and I. And from that moment on, life got sweeter again. We descended to lower altitudes and my appetite came back.
Hi.
Hi. Hey. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Okay. Follow me. Okay.
Okay, you want me to try? Okay. You hold this? You hold it? No, it's okay. Just hold it. Okay, I'll try.
Even though I was sick and I had a hard time and it was very expensive, I'm really glad that I got the opportunity. Being in Tibet was a highlight for me, for sure.
How long have you been traveling at this point?
A bit over 2 years.
And you needed some more work?
Yeah, I desperately needed work because I had some unanticipated costs of having to transport Marianne on the back of a truck. And I also had a lot of healing to do, and Laos was just the best place for this. So I was knocking on doors for a while, trying to find NGOs that would possibly require a skill set that I could offer. I was very lucky. After talking to many expats in Vientiane, I found a job. Very intense, hard work, but that got me going for a couple of months. I also tried working on a rice paddy, and that was a good experience, and I could feed myself. But I wouldn't be able to save up money in order to travel further, so that wouldn't work for the travel aspect. Laos was one of the biggest surprises to me, one of the countries that I enjoyed the most. All the time that I've spent in Laos, like several months, I've never, ever, even once witnessed somebody raise his voice or speak bad or be cursing. I mean, Laos has its problems. It's got only 4% of the tourism that Thailand has, and 40% of the people in rural areas live off the electricity grid.
Savadi.
Because the country is so undeveloped, to me at least, the people seem not at all to be corrupted. And they made the most of what they had.
The 5 months must have passed by now, so what about that girl that emailed you? Did you get to meet her finally?
I rushed down to Bangkok to be there in time. And she wasn't there. She was stuck because the volcano in Iceland went off and everybody in Europe was stranded. I had nothing to do in Bangkok except to wait for her. So we met on Skype and talked about what we could possibly do in Southeast Asia, and we got to know each other a little better. This one day, we were Skyping for 9 consecutive hours. When she finally made it there, I was very excited to pick her up from the airport. So after spending a couple of days with her, there wasn't much talk needed for us to just naturally go on an adventure together. I left half my gear in Bangkok. to make some room for her on the back of the bike, and we just shot off to travel Southeast Asia. We went through Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, and we had an amazing time. It was for about 3.5 months.
Daniel seems to be happier than I've ever seen him. I guess when you do what your heart tells you to, and you dare to push through what you thought was impossible, when you reach the point of being utterly content with who and where you are, then you attract all kinds of good things into your life, especially people.
I never in my life been around someone for 24 hours, 7 days a week without having to adjust or to explain myself. It's just so natural and easygoing. I don't know how to explain it. It's really hard to explain. It's just as we were meant to do that. One evening in Cambodia, we kind of thought it would be fun for her to try ride Marianne. And Joey got on really well. She was a natural. But then Marianne proved to be too big of a bike for a beginner. Long story short, Joey was startled by something, popped the clutch, and where other bikes would have stalled, Marianne ran up the curb and smacked straight into a wall. Luckily, nothing really bad happened. She had a sprained wrist and some bruises. And a couple of days later, I had to brake really hard for something that happened on the road, and I noticed how the front wheel touched the bash plate of the engine. I looked at the bike more closely and I noticed how the frame was bent in the front here.
Was this the end of your travels with Joey because the bike was broken?
No, she had to fly back to Germany because her time was up and she had to focus on her career again. And after she had gone, it was very tough. She's the only person that I've ever met that I want to be around all the time. But I kind of knew that this wasn't the end of it. And I kept riding with the broken frame for another couple thousand kilometers until Ingo came to visit. He brought a new frame with him from Germany.
Right. So who's Ingo?
Remember this guy? Ingo has been following Daniel's blog. Intrigued by the adventurous lifestyle, he comes to find out what it's really like.
On the first day, we managed to find a decent enough bike for him to buy and then hopefully sell again after a couple of weeks. You can be proud of yourself. It was the end of his stay. He called his boss and asked for an extension. When he came back, he was so amazed or so intrigued by this travel lifestyle that he quit his job. He sold all his furniture, sold his apartment, and set off to go on a journey himself.
So after Ingo left, you were all alone again. Did you think about Joey much?
We both worked on solutions and ways so we could be together again. Joey came down to Australia and did an internship. So she could work on her career and be around me. And also we traveled New Zealand together and That's when I basically made it to the other side of the world. And I financed myself. I found a way to get there, right? This gave me the greatest sense of freedom. Being on that adventure was the most important thing to me. It was everything that I ever dreamt of, everything that I wanted to do. So because Joey wasn't in a position to change her plans, and I knew she had to go back home at some point, I had to make the decision whether I would continue to travel around the world, living my dream, or whether I should go back to Germany with her, to be with her. And I chose her, because when I thought about it, I realized I wouldn't enjoy it as much, being by myself, knowing that she's not with me. Turns out, traveling and exploring other places is as important to Joey as it is for me. So I'm very excited about her having gotten the driver's license for the motorbike. And she wants to finish the second leg of the journey with me, completing my lifelong dream of circumnavigating the world.
We're all just a product of our environment, but traveling helps us expand our boundaries, let go of our inhibitions, and come to a better understanding of life. I've done everything I could to keep Daniel on course, and I feel like I haven't completely failed. Daniel, Joey, Ingo, and even Lars will continue to explore our world and inspire others to do the same, just like many travelers before them.
The biggest thing I learned on that trip is that my problems, or problems in general, are really small considered to problems other people have. And that's the thing I took away from the trip, and I really appreciate that.
Nobody who has traveled, nobody I know, of all the hundreds, possibly thousands of travelers that I've met, has ever come back saying, oh yes, it's just as awful as they say it is, and people were really horrible, and I had a rotten time. And I never hear. Maybe those are the ones that died on the way. I don't know, but I never hear that from anyone.
We've changed so dramatically. We're still the same people, but it's almost like these changes are like they're subtle shifts that have big changes in the way we see things.
The fact of the matter is that wherever you go, it is where people live ordinary lives and go about their business in an ordinary way, completely oblivious to whatever it is that we're saying about them. So there may well be difficulties. There might be somebody blowing somebody up somewhere, but for the most part, people are just going to the shops and the schools and getting on the buses and doing all the things that they have to do to get through their lives.
Once you got a job and once you got a rooftop over you, the main thing is that you're healthy. If you're healthy, nothing can come to you.
Und die Idee der Weltreise, die entstand eigentlich auf Arbeit. Bei der 60-Stunden-Woche, wo man abends dann immer noch im Büro sitzt und sich fragt, warum man das macht und wozu und was es alles bringt.
I think if I was to go back and say anything, it's just, you know, doing this was 100% the right thing to do. And it makes way more sense when you're on it.
Wir sind, glaube ich, 10-mal glücklicher hier und wissen es nicht. Ich meine, wir müssen für Schule nicht zahlen. Wir müssen für medizinische Grundversorgung nichts zahlen. Wir können sagen, was wir wollen, wir können wählen, was wir wollen. Die Polizei ist nicht korrupt, die Richter sind nicht korrupt.
The prejudices that have always existed in the world and always probably will exist in the world are the principal reason why it's possible to send large numbers of people to war and
I don't know if it's traveling by motorcycle or if it's just travel in general, but there's so many acts of kindness that happen to you that you want to go full circle with those and do good by people as you travel.
And these are the things that have to be said constantly in order to counteract the impression that we get from the more sensational newspapers and television and so on.